Good afternoon and welcome to the Raymond Hall Show. I am your host, Raymond Hall, and I want to wish each and every one of you a happy Labor Day. We all are going to be taking this weekend to enjoy family and friends and everything else. So we're going to take time and we're going to say the theme of this show today is we're going to say give some service to yourself. Service is a different conversation. And I was talking to a dear friend, and we were talking about the importance of taking care of yourself so you'll be able to take care of others. So I thought it best with the recent losses that we have that we would talk about taking care of yourself so you will be well positioned to take care of others. We're going to have one of my friends and someone who's often on this program, Mr. Anthony Williams from Memphis, Tennessee, to be on the telephone with us today. He has a rich history in music and in history and in the community itself. So if you've got a point of view you want to talk about taking care of yourself so you can take care of others, service is a different conversation than taking care of yourself, call in and let us know what's on your mind. 323-293-3375 is the call-in number. In the last week or so, we've lost two giants. We lost definitely the Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin, and we also lost Senator John McCain. And I want to stop and take just a few moments to talk about that loss. It's rare that you'll hear me use the word hero, because I think heroes are something that can be defined by each and every one of us. What's important to us? What do we hold dear to us? What do we count or measure as a mark of excellence or someone that gave everything that they could? From a veteran's point of view, this is irrespectful of what political party someone belongs to or what part of the country that they live into. It's a job in and of itself to be in the active service of the United States of America. But to be in active service to this nation and then to be captured by an enemy and then to be recognized for who you are, the lineage of your family, the rich history of service that your father and your grandfather has given to the nation, and then to be subject to even more oppression and pain and beatings and brutality because of who you are, and then with dignity, with respect, with honor. You, Senator McCain, then Airman John McCain, stood that post. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about service. It's not so much about military service. Only military service is the best example of service, I think, that we can use in this nation, because when you look at someone who gives active service to this nation, you're not looking at someone that always is happy about the assignment or happy about what is included in the job that they find themselves a part of. I'm sure that there was not a day gone by that Airman McCain did not miss something about liberty. He spoke about it on numerous occasions. He talked about how the greatest gift to him was this nation and the liberty that it afforded him. So whatever he endured it because of the liberty that came out of the service that he and others provided. So military service may not be the only mark of an example of service, but military service is definitely an example of service. This is not taking a position on whether wars is or is not necessary. This is not taking a position on any aspect of war. I'm just saying that here is a human being that said to himself in his heart, I will give service. And what he said in his heart allowed him to endure all of the things that he was subject to while he was a prisoner of war there at the Hanoi, Hanoi Hilton. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but this prison camp is what it was. The environment was filthy. It was heroic. There were beatings. It's very well documented what he went through. But when you read his spirit and his mind and his the books that talk about his mindset and the spirit that he had, that no, I will not, because of who I am, go and leave my fellow soldiers, leave them behind. I will stay here until we're all free. So it's not so much that we can say, well, we really didn't know him. You know his work. We can't say that, well, he was out of Arizona. He was a senator out of Arizona. It's the fabric of his service that affords each and every person the liberties that they have on each and every block. This nation should have a half mask in their heart. So to raise a flag to half mast on a staff should be automatic. It should be elementary. The theme today is take care of yourself. Have a different conversation with yourself. Take care of yourself. And that will allow you to be able to take care of others. Not only did he serve the nation as an airman, but endured what he had to endure in captivity. He returned home and he did not find it a chore to continue to give service. You all have to excuse me. I can't blame it on anyone else today. It's my phone. So he did not continue to stop to give service, but he continued to give service. He gave 32 years of service as an elected official. And he knew how to stand his post as an airman, as someone captured. See, no matter where you find yourself, whether you find yourself in a place where it's difficult to stand, you still must stand in that place with dignity and honor. And we have an example. That's what denotes those people that we want to call heroes. They are not heroes just because they went somewhere and did something. It's how they did what they did while they were there. There is no record, public record that I could find. There may be one, but there was no public record I could find where John McCain cried and begged and said, oh, I can't take it anymore, send me home. There's no record I can find there. There's a record of how the brutality was so bad that it had a permanent effect on his limbs. That record is there. There's a permanent record on how long he was held there in captivity. That record is there. There's a record of how often he was brutalized. Their record is there. But there's no record of him standing a post in other than standing with dignity and honor. So as we look to have a conversation with ourselves about how we're treating ourselves, how we're positioning ourselves to put ourselves in the best health and the best state of health possible, it's because people have given their all in the assignment that they had. 32 years as an elected official. And then with grace and dignity, the two people who beat him and stopped him from becoming president of the United States, those are the people he asked to speak at his service. President Bush and President Obama. Again, even though he passed on, that was an act of dignity. That was an act of, this is what liberty looks like when you stand and give service, and the fruit that comes from the service allows you to do things that other people may be able to pick up those things and use as examples in their lives. Airman McCain, thank you for that post. Senator McCain, thank you for standing that post. As a veteran, and as, if I but can speak to those who may be like-minded like me, we respect you for what you have done, and we respect you for the legacy that you have left, because that legacy is something that all is going to be able to look at and maybe pattern their lives after what you have given us. You have showed us how to stand when it's difficult to even get up. You have showed us how to move on even when it's difficult to move. You showed us how to look ahead when it's even hard to look, period. It's easy for me to forget or to have a gripe if a button comes loose on my shirt, instead of me being thankful that I have the shirt itself. It's easy for me to gripe about I don't feel good today if I discount the fact that I am in a position to feel at all. It's easy for me to sit on the curve and complain about what I don't have if I discount the fact that I'm still in a state of B. What is my state of B? I'm still in the state of here. I be, I exist. So with the life that he was given, he took the days that he was assigned, and each day he looked for a reason to say thank you, as opposed to gripe about what was before him. He said, thank you because I count it an honor to go through this, so those who are in the homeland will be at liberty to enjoy what liberty affords. He didn't look at the button that was missing. He looked at the fact that there was a shirt. There's no way that I can talk about even beginning to understand what that pain felt like when one human being inflicts that much pain on another human being because of ideologies. I can't begin to understand that. So I won't try. All I will say is thank you for reaching up to a higher strength, to a higher place, to be able to endure those things, so we would be able to say today, that is a place that we all may be able to attain to, so we can think again when we want to inflict pain on someone else. What are we doing? We must be in a state of good health ourselves, good mental health, good physical health, good emotional health. So we will be in a state to help each other. This is Labor Day, so we're just here talking about things. If you have a question or a comment, or just like to talk about something that has to do with you, call in. The number is 323-293-3375. So again, we want to thank Senator John McCain for giving us an example of what service and service to the nation look like. And we want to offer our condolences to all of the family that's here. Okay, we have a caller on the line.
How you do, sir?
Caller, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
I'm fine. I heard you in your dissertation and your talk about the patriot and the serviceman. As John McCain, first of all, was bipartisan.
That's correct.
What I liked about John.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us 32 years, and they talked about him today, and they talked about the three things that he, saw paramount in his life. And one was family, the other was service, and the third was love of his country.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about John McCain was he stood his ground.
That's right.
He believed in something, he stood his ground, and just to, I heard you mention my name that we were going to come on, and let me get that out of the way. My name is Anthony Williams, and I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, along with Raymond Hall there.
Mm-hmm.
And Raymond, if you can recall, we're from the state of Tennessee.
Right.
And in Tennessee is called the volunteer state.
That's correct.
You can go all the way back to Alvin, York. I think that was World War I, and one of the early wars.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a movie about Alvin York.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of those that fought, and he was a sharpshooter or something of that nature.
Right.
John McCain, he endured a lot of torture and disgrace
Mm-hmm.
as a POW. And when he was finally let go out of the Hanoi Hilton, can you believe a person that has gone through and endured all of that still gives us 32 years of service?
Right.
And
That's
so
what was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, my hats off to John McCain and R.I.P. Airman McCain and Senator McCain,
Mm-hmm.
and he should have been Admiral McCain.
That's true. I think his dad was an admiral or something. Either father or grandfather. One of them was admiral, I think.
Father and grandfather.
Father and grandfather. Uh-huh.
All right. And
Okay.
they had a nice funeral for him today.
Mm-hmm.
Back to us in Tennessee. You didn't know this about myself, and I'm quite sure you. In the state of Tennessee in the 60s, we were, as boys, required to take a National Defense Cadet Corps, which is called NDCC,
Mm-hmm.
or ROTC. And so, as far as the Vietnam War was concerned, a lot of boys from out of Tennessee were drafted because we were service ready,
Right.
particularly Army ready.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, as a veteran, Raymond, I was in ROTC and I was a major
Mm-hmm.
in ROTC. I did 3 years, and I just want to allude to the fact that originally they had 11 general orders, and in those general orders, that you had to guard your post, and they had something that we had to recite
Right.
of that nature. And then after the National Defense Cadet Corps left, they turned into Reserve Officers Training Corps, which is ROTC.
Right. Now that's what I remember in school.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a drill team commander, and we learned a lot, and particularly we were armor ready.
Mm-hmm.
So those that gave their service and their lives for this country, regardless of party, or regardless of their color, regardless of their race,
Mm-hmm.
we want to show our appreciation and thank you for your service.
Right.
Now, the theme today you talked about was taking care of yourself.
Right.
And if you want to expound on that, I'd like to chime in on that as well. So I'm going to listen right now.
Well, I was talking to a dear friend, and I'll have to give her a shout out, Shirley Jenkins. We were talking, and she was saying one of the things that service is a different conversation. People need to give service to themselves to take care of themselves. And people need to take care of themselves so they will be best positioned to be able to help care for others. And at first, it seemed kind of like a shallow conversation. But the more I just digested the thought, I thought about, are we really taking care of ourselves so we can be of service or help take care of others? We're faced with, without going into any of the dynamics, but this November, we're faced with some things that we need to be in a position where we've taken care of ourselves so
Absolutely.
we can be healthy in our understanding what's involved, healthy in our knowledge. That not one thing is to have an understanding of what's involved, and the other thing is to have knowledge of the power of your participation. And we're talking about, if anybody haven't guessed it now, we're talking about the vote. So you've got to have knowledge of the understanding of what's important, and you've got to have an understanding that your participation matters. So you need to get up and vote, irrespective of party, irrespective of what you believe, or those kind of things. And that's what we were talking about. And with Aretha Franklin, I remember part of, she said she asked her dad, could she go and sing, go and be a part of Dr. King's movement. And she wanted to sing because she had both knowledge of what was going on, and she knew personally what her participation, how important that would help with her participation. So that service is a different conversation. Is not something always that's just outward to others. Sometimes it's as close as inward to ourselves. That's the thought behind it. Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to be involved in a branch of service to contribute.
Right.
You have to participate.
Right.
And
Exactly.
in terms of taking care of yourselves, in terms of all the things that are available in the way of health care available to us. That's one of the reasons we have to get involved in terms of voting. I was one of the first pharmaceutical salesmen in Los Angeles. In 1974, I got out of college. I came here. I worked for Park Davis Pharmaceutical.
Okay.
And I did 8 years with them, and I also worked for Syntex Pharmaceutical and OBGYN specialty. What I found out with that, and I called on, and Los Angeles was my territory, Los Angeles proper.
Okay. Hello. Oh, look like we've got an interrupted line there with Mr. Williams. The theme for today is take care of yourself. We talked earlier about Senator John McCain and how he had to endure all of those things at the Hanoi Hilton. Well, some kind of way he had to muster up, maybe not even day by day, but minute by minute. He'd have to gear up to take care of himself. Caller on the line, are you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
System failed some way.
Okay.
I think I was talking about all the services that are available to seniors and veterans here in Los Angeles. A lot of these things, if we don't get involved, we don't know.
Exactly.
Because back in the early 70s, the first HMOs came out of Kaiser, health maintenance organizations, where they've tried to provide to the low-income individuals some modicum of health services. I used to do both retail and wholesale. I mean, retail and detail. Meaning that I would call on the doctors as well as I would call on the pharmacies and Clark Drugs, etc. If you can recall, they had Watts Health Center over there for all the low-income people.
Right.
And they would provide, a broad spectrum of services, health services to those people.
Mm-hmm.
You had to qualify. You had to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen when I tried to sell them the Cadillacs of the drugs?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't afford them. So everything had to be pretty much affordable, off the formulary, or generic. So basically, you can use lots of things to say why you're not being served, but the things are available to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on to giving service and services a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
During World War II, excuse me, as you can recall, there was Rosie the Riveter, if you can recall.
Mm-hmm.
The women had to get involved.
Right.
To make the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one example.
Mm-hmm.
And, so in terms of Aretha, I don't know which one, when I got dropped off, what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
She was the queen of soul.
Right. Well, there's been so much that has come out that you just didn't know, and it was all really surprisingly good. But she told her father, Reverend Franklin, that she wanted to go and sing for the movement. She wanted to go and go with Dr. King, and she wanted to sing with the movement. And if you remember, I mean, I'm sure you remember more so than I, you had such a wider look. I'm just looking from the block point of view. This was what was going on my block, what the people were doing on my block. But as a radio personality, you had to look at the whole city, what the city was doing, is my point. Everybody was getting involved. There was this disc jockey, Boss Ugly Bob, that had some kind of something going on Macklemore. Yeah, record store on Macklemore, and it had this big window pane where he could see people walking by, and people could stop by and give their comments and those kind of things. It was just everybody was involved. And so for her to say, I want to be involved and I want to sing, I just thought that was admirable. I never saw her sing, but, there's so many records of her participating and those kind of things that it just made a big difference. Right. Yes.
Absolutely.
And
during that time, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
During that time, and I talked about it on one of the shows earlier, we were in segregation. Let's tell it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we were more cohesive and we were more communal at that particular time. And being in segregation there in Memphis, Tennessee, and having gone to school, you went to Booker T, I went to Douglas.
Right.
We had to go. We at Douglas had to go to school 12 years,
mm-hmm.
from the first to the 12th grade before we graduated.
Right.
With that said, you had an idea of the legacy of those icons before us and those community leaders, those opinion leaders in
mm-hmm.
our community.
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward to 1968 when Martin Luther King came to, assist the garbage workers.
Garbage workers, right.
Yeah, and so the cry was, we're tired, get your feet off our neck, and everybody came together and we marched, but it was like a boiling cauldron at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And the apex was when their first march fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
So those celebrities that came down and to assist Martin had already come down to Selma in the earlier years.
Right.
Aretha Franklin, being originally from Memphis,
mm-hmm.
born there in Memphis, I remember seeing her the first time I saw her live.
Mm-hmm.
Was on a show with Ray Charles.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked her, and I thought she was from Detroit myself. I was
Right.
a young
Matter
man.
of fact, you were the one that enlightened me to that because I grew up thinking that she was from Detroit. I just remember Reverend Franklin and she was out of Detroit. And you're absolutely correct. She was born and raised right there. Well, she was born there in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she went, and he took his family to Detroit,
Hmm.
and I believe he was at the advent of his career there as a preacher. But they moved to Detroit in the early 50s, or I don't know the exact dates of that transpired.
Now I
But
was reading something that says she sang with James Cleveland. She sang with. Did you hear that or see that, or is that a record or something?
oh yeah, there's a plethora of people that she sang with, so you could, icons in the music industry and talent. I couldn't, I have a bullet point here to say this happened here, this happened there, because, you called me about 20 minutes ago.
Right. Right.
But anyway, she was the queen of soul. I remember when we would introduce her when we play her record. That's all you have to say. Is the queen of soul. Honored.
Right.
I used to say that. Honored Aretha Franklin.
Right.
And she was honored at that particular time.
Right. Right.
And,
Right.
and she was the first to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Hall of
there in
Fame.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
To be inducted as a female.
Yeah.
Now, I was in Detroit 2 weeks ago prior to, and I happened to have been there that week when she got ill.
Right.
And the city of Detroit just wrapped their arms around her, and they were in visual because we pretty much knew she was transitioning, going on home. And she was gloved, and R.I.P. the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin.
Yeah. One of my favorite songs of Aretha Franklin was Chain, 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 Chain of Food. Yeah, because when we were kids, they still had sock hops. And for those of you all who don't know, sock hop, you pull your shoes off and they lined up around the wall, and everybody got on. Generally, it was a gym floor or something. And you just got on the floor and danced. You couldn't dance on the floor with your shoes on. But yeah, it was. She was just a remarkable person. She did so much more. My point than just singing. That's what this Labor Day show is all about. We're looking at people who have given a life of service. And they have given that life of service so that we will be able to take our lives and give service that will be able to help someone else, because her music definitely inspired. I mean, RESPECT. It's just so many.
That's what I was about to allude to. That's about what I said. And excuse me for cutting you off, but she was really known for RESPECT.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, Otis Redding did that song originally.
RESPECT? I didn't know
Several
that.
versions of it. She took it to another level.
Right.
Otis Redding on Stax there, and Willie Mitchell and that group of high studios out there out of Memphis.
Right. Now, didn't Willie Mitchell and them record out of Stax too, or is that?
No,
they did.
It was called High Records.
Okay.
Al Green and that was one of the biggest artists out of High Records, and several others. But Al Bell and Stax. I believe they were on Macklemore too, weren't they?
Right, Macklemore in Mississippi.
Yeah, Macklemore, Mississippi.
Right across from Lemoyne Garden, and it was a graveyard right up there too.
Yeah, Al Bell was the president, and they just poured out nothing but the hits from Sam and Dave to Isaac Hayes to Rufus Thomas.
Right.
I mean, just
the Barkays.
Yeah, the Barking Barkay. Used to call him. Now, there was a disc jockey in Memphis by the name of Bill Terrell.
Right.
And that was the guy I emulated. Bill Terrell went to Hamilton High School, and he was a he was a Memphis product.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing about the black community at that particular time, you had a great percentage of educated blacks. I mean, when I say educated, I mean college educated.
Right.
And at the minimal of secondary, meaning they got their. And Bill Terrell went to Fisk University and came back to Memphis, and I would just sit down and I would just marvel at his way of enunciation and pronunciation, and he had along with Rufus Thomas.
Oh yeah.
Rufus was an air personality.
Yeah.
For those that don't know.
And he used to come to, because he came to Booker Washington several times. Rufus Thomas and Carla Thomas. I mean, then it was the family.
Right.
You know, he was singing in the
Yeah, Carla did. Gee whiz, look at his eyes.
Right. So it was a great legacy. I worked right up the street at Macklemore and no, wait a minute. I worked right up there at Macklemore, Mississippi. Stax was at Macklemore, Mississippi, and it was further down the street. It was down by Lemoyne-on University. And and you know, there was a little biscuit house. You remember when Mahalia Jackson had that little biscuit house?
Right.
Right across the street. It used to have the best chicken and gravy. And we're talking about a time when music, it was so much talent in music, talent in Memphis.
Absolutely.
It was just unbelievable. I mean, not laced with a lot of profanity and degrading music. You had a lot of very good, upbeat, uplifting music there in Memphis, Tennessee at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I can recall when the Isaac brothers, and I was in the choir at Douglas High School, and I was choir director.
Mm-hmm.
When they came out with "It's Your Thing,"
right?
Do what you want to do.
Right.
Our choir director said, "That music is too suggestive. It's too suggestive."
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if in the event he was around today, what would he think of this music that's so provocative and so unfiltered?
Right.
And let's go back to John McCain. He was unfiltered when it came to standing for right.
That's correct.
He didn't care about what party he was in, and in terms of us taking care of ourselves in order to serve, we need to take advantage of all the things that are available to us in the way of health services. I looked up. I hate to digress, but we want to cover all the bases here. A friend of mine, which is an elderly individual, wanted to know what tax breaks were there for the elderly, people over 65, that had high taxes. If we can go back to Proposition 13, they had a formula where if your property went up in value, you wouldn't be stuck with paying, that they would have to level off, etc. I don't know all the I's and T's there, but there are lots of programs available from the state that the elderly veterans and people that on limited income or things have happened to them, particularly veterans that have been hurt in service, the tax breaks for them, and some of them can be deferred. So they need to go Google and go on to or get someone that knows how to source that information for them and find out if they qualify for these deferments in terms of their home property and things of that nature.
Well, if you're talking about veterans and home ownership, you've got two sets. The federal government simply guarantees the loan if you're going to get a loan. The best place to go if you're in the state of California is look at CalVet. And that's California veterans. And CalVet, they'll be able to give people.
That's the purchase.
I'm not talking about just the purchase. I'm talking about CalVet. They know where all of the benefits are, where a person can, where this benefit or that kind of thing is available. They, at the state level, they do a lot of things there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they can just
Okay.
Google CalVet, get in touch with CalVet here in LA. You can go to Patriotic Hall, and they'll be able to help you with a lot of things. There are a lot of benefits, and I say to people all the time, I'm thankful to have lived this long to know that I can take advantage of
Both
some
of
of the
hey,
benefits.
hey, Raymond, both
Yeah,
of us.
most that's true. Most of us. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm 1 year. You're a senior, but
Yes, yes.
now what we also have to think about in terms of services that are available for people that are non-veterans that are speaking in terms of those that have lived in this community for years and gotten old and still have their property taxes going up
Mm-hmm.
or can't even pay their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
There are things available for them that when I began to research it, it was pages and pages and pages of just use the veterans as one example. They're going to get all the here recently the last 10 years. Everybody's saying thank you for your service.
Mm-hmm.
So they are being recognized somewhat. I had three brothers that went in service. One died in service. One went to Vietnam and on the way back and came back, and one that was in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And the day that my second brother passed away, I was in the induction center in Guthrie, Oklahoma myself. I was a sophomore in college, and what got me out of it was the fact that he passed away that day.
Mm.
So we were raised to give our service in the state of Tennessee.
Right.
We were Army ready, and what I did not like, there were a lot of coffins that came back out of the Vietnam War.
There was a lot of what that came back?
Coffins.
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of
Yeah.
my friends came back in coffins. And,
Yeah.
it kind of, at the time, I graduated in '69. I think you graduated in 1970 from high school.
Mm.
And Martin Luther King had come to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And we began to wake up, meaning the purpose of the war.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can recall, we were reared to either go to school, get educated, or go to work, or go to service.
Right. Right.
And so we were all patriotic to this country.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mandatory that we take ROTC
Mm-hmm.
or pre-Army
Mm-hmm.
in the state of Tennessee. And I don't know no other state that required that boys at that particular time, it was mandatory that they take at least 2 years of ROTC, and I took 3.
Yeah. Well,
so,
I just took what was required because at that time in my life, military nothing was on my mind.
That's my point.
Yeah, you know, they had a problem. This is going to sound funny today. They had a problem getting me a haircut. I had hair like the Mod Squad guy, and
that's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah, I just wasn't trying to hear it. But I will say this: I am thankful for that Marine Corps experience because it gave me something that I desperately needed. I needed to have an understanding of God, Corps, and country. And that's what the military experience gave me. Was it all something that I enjoyed doing? No. Most of it was something I did not enjoy doing. But it has given me something that has lasted throughout the rest of my life. I went in February of '71, and I will tell you, ever since February of '71, without a doubt, I can say that it changed my life for the rest of my life. Okay, and that I'm really happy. We're here with Mr. Anthony Williams, Memphis, Tennessee, radio personality and somewhat of a historian on Memphis and music that came out of Memphis and events that happened in Memphis. We want to take a time, Mr. Williams, and we want to thank you. We want to thank you for all of that service that you've given not only to the Memphis community, but the communities around the world, every community that you've been a part. So we want to definitely thank you, and we want to thank you for inspiring others to go on and to do the things that they're doing. I want to make sure that I thank my mentor and dear friend, Mr. Johnny Morris. Yes, yes, Mr. Johnny Morris. Yes, I definitely want to thank him. He's such an inspiration to me, and everywhere that I've gone on the air, he's always been there, and I don't know how he knew that the butterflies was there, but he helped mold me to today. I'm still a work in progress, but
we all are.
Yeah,
we all are. Johnny made it possible here in the city of Los Angeles by erecting these studios
right.
and things of this nature. I don't know him personally. I know he's convalescent now, and Johnny, we love you and get well.
Yes, yes, indeed. And we're broadcasting out of Morris Media Studios. Felicia Morris, his daughter, is the owner and operator of this studio, so we're looking at the second generation. Here again, we're talking about service. Mr. Morris has passed that knowledge and spirit of business and making something available in the community. He's passed it down, and we are sitting here in the studio that's facilitated through Felicia Morris. So we definitely want to thank Mr. Morris. Johnny, we are all still holding you in our prayers and everything else. We want to thank all of those men and women who are serving around the globe. Service is not an easy thing by no means, but we want to let you know that we are very thankful for that service that you give that affords us the opportunities and liberty that we are afforded. We want everyone to enjoy their Labor Day. And Johnny, so now what are you doing for, do you have any events coming up or anything like that?
Well, you mentioned that they're going to be down, you mentioned there in the Mid-City, is that correct?
Yeah, and they're going to have a tribute to Aretha Franklin tonight, I think, at the African American Museum. I think it starts about 6 o'clock, and they should have a few dignitaries and the supervisor there and that kind of thing. It should be a pretty nice event. It's just going to be a couple of hours, so we definitely want to mention that.
I'll try and get through there. But back to taking care of ourselves. You are what you eat, senior citizens.
That's
are
right.
what you eat.
That's right.
And if you look at Mr. Raymond Hall, there 10 is in. Go to your doctor. Make sure you get your annual checkup. And black men, do get your prostate checked.
Yeah, that's true.
Do get your prostate checked. Johnny Morris, we are standing in the gap of prayer for you. God is in charge.
That's right. Okay. Now, don't get too thin, fellas. I didn't lose all the weight because I wanted to. I got a little sick. I'm on the rebound, though, so I'm picking up a little weight. But, yeah, we definitely want to take care of ourselves. We're going to say goodbye a little early. They're going to play a little music here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Raymond Hall Show. Have a wonderful Labor Day. Take care of yourselves, and we're going to go to a quick commercial.